welcome to a new Shogunet video interview. This time we'll be speaking about some big news for the Canadian gaming market because this week the Senate finally approved Bill C-218, which allows sports betting in single events. And the Canadian Gaming Association has been working for this bill to come to a reality for over 10 years now. So today we're joined by Paul Burns, the President and CEO of the Canadian Gaming Association. So welcome, Paul. Thank you for having us today, and of course with a much better news for the jurisdiction in the gaming industry.
Yes. No, it was a great week to be able to finally see this bill come to completion. It's been, as you said, it's been a long time. We've had the 3 previous attempts, which weren't successful, but this time we were fortunate to get through. The Senate recesses very shortly for the summer and don't come back, and we're expecting a federal election in Canada sometime this fall. So the bill needed to get done, or else we would have had to start over again. So we're grateful for the fact it got done, and what this does is now permits single event sports wagering to occur in the country. And as you know, gaming is organized by at the provincial level, province by province, much like the US, and state by state. So now it's up to the provinces to begin to decide how they're going to offer it, when, what it's going to look like. And that work is, some of it's begun already and underway, but now that's the focus really now turns to the provinces to say, how are you going to get this out there? Because the public is anxious and eager to have it.
Right. Well, what do you think that made the difference now for the bill to finally succeed after so many years? Do you think maybe the pandemic played a decisive role in this approval?
There was a number of factors this time. I mean, we've had a wonderful coalition of organizations that have supported this bill, from the amateur sport community, like Canada Soccer, the Canadian Olympic Committee, the International Olympic Committee, but also organized labor and business organizations, communities, had all said, please get this done. It means a lot to bringing a regulated sports betting market, so the benefits stay in Canada. But the big one this time too was the professional sports leagues in North America all backed the bill. So that was also changed. There was nobody left on the other side, and there was nobody saying no, don't do this. And that was part of it. And then obviously a combination of the pandemic really from the casino gaming industry in the country is just starting to reopen in places. British Columbia will open next week. They haven't opened at all since March of 2020. Other provinces have had limited openings with very restricted capacities. Those are starting to get lifted. So starting last week in some provinces have begun to reopen at very good capacity levels. It's going to grow over the next couple of months, so they'll be getting closer back to normal. So that's going to be, and so having this product soon to offer is going to be really key for them too. And that's really the pressure is the provinces is that the land-based, the casinos really want to be able to have a sports book, especially in time for the fall sports season in North America. So it's the pressure's on. But it has been a combination of all of those things coming together in the timing. It was really, it all worked, and we're grateful for it. We had our sponsor in the Senate, Senator David Wells from Newfoundland, did an amazing job at being able to shepherd the bill through the Senate process, because the Senate has very unique rules that it takes a lot of consensus and a lot of team building and working on coalitions within the Senate to make things happen this quickly, and he was a master at it. So we're grateful for his work too.
Right. Well, you mentioned that there is some expectations in terms of market launch regarding connected to, of course, the major sporting events. But what can you tell us about each province? Which ones could be ahead of the market in terms of market launch? Where do you see that regulations could come first? And of course, I don't know if you have any numbers to have an idea of what this market could be worth in each jurisdiction?
Well, in terms of timing, we've heard from British Columbia Lottery Corporation this week put out their own statement saying they plan to be up and running weeks. They have a very robust online platform that the Provincial Lottery Corporation offers. They have a good sports offering through it. And that they expect to be able to make the changes necessary in a matter of weeks. The regulators across the country have been working on sports betting regulatory frameworks for a number of months now. And so British Columbia said we could do this on our online platform in a matter of weeks. And I suspect there'll be other lottery corporations to do that. And in some jurisdictions, it may just be initially offered only through the lottery corporation platforms. Some provinces have some work to do still. SIGA, Saskatchewan Indian Gaming Authority, has been given the mandate in the province of Saskatchewan. They operate 6 casinos in the province. They've been given the mandate to run online gaming and sports betting for the whole province. So they've got some work they're starting to do now to build out their offering. And obviously everybody's watching the province of Ontario. So Ontario government, separate from the sports betting legislation, late last year and early this year, they started the process to begin to create a regulated environment marketplace for online gaming. And Ontario is going to be an open licensing market. It's going to be, so anybody is free to come and apply for a license and do business in the province of Ontario. And that's unique to North America, but from sports and online gaming, it's going to be a very interesting and competitive market. Ontario, almost 15 million people in the, it's the biggest province in the country. And in context, it's about the 5th biggest market in North America as a jurisdiction. So it's bigger than New Jersey in terms of population. It's bigger than Illinois than population. So it's, in terms of that, it provides potential for a really robust market with lots of competition. And that's the province that's getting most of the interest at this point. That process for creating that online regulatory marketplace is currently in a consultation phase. We expect to see details around what the market will look like will be finalized by September. And applications for licensing will open sometime in September. And they expect the market in Ontario to open before the end of 2021. So that's the timing there is a bit different than the rest of the country because they're looking at, because of the broader online gaming framework. Obviously, the casinos in Ontario don't want to wait until the end of the year and hopefully don't have to. We're hoping that they can have their sports books operational in their casino environment by Labor Day weekend and by early September. So we're hopeful that those can that can all happen. So it's really an interesting dynamic across the country because there's going to be lots of activity in Ontario, and there's other provinces are still working to figure it out. The province of Alberta is looking at a model. They have an online platform that they've launched earlier this year. They're going to add sports to it, but they're also looking at their casino market and saying maybe we can allow our casinos to partner with sports books to offer a retail sports book in the casino and maybe with a mobile option. And they've done some work to investigate that. So we're waiting to see what that's going to look like. So what we've got is a bunch of different options and models. So it's, and that's where, when you talked about market size, it's hard to say what it's going to be because it's going to look very different in every jurisdiction. And that's one of the things we've always cautioned, because we know Canada has been a very robust market in the gray market for online gaming from offshore operators. Roughly from sports, there's about almost $4.5 billion wagered in total handle wagered on offshore online sports books. I suspect we'll see some of that start to move back in, especially with Ontario creating a licensing regime where a lot of these sites now can be licensed and do the revenue share with the government. But yeah, there's been a lot of estimates. There's some saying year one, you'll see, because we have legal about 500 million go through the sports lottery products today, the parlay wagering sports lottery products that exist in Canada today. It's about $500 million. Some are estimating the first year somewhere between $5 and $7 billion in handle. I've seen estimates in 5 years as high as 28 billion. I think that's aggressive potentially, given I don't think we're going to be a completely open competitive market from coast to coast. So I think that somewhere in that in the 10 to 15 range is probably within 5 years, and total handle is probably achievable. But it really is going to depend on what the provinces choose to do and how. And that's why it's hard to pin a number particularly, because the Canadians do like to bet on sports, no question about it. And our per capita spend, it's a little higher than the US, a little lower than UK. So, in terms of looking at comparables, but it's, I think Canadians have never had really a lot of choice when it comes to sports betting options and new products and other things. So I think this is going to be exciting to see. And I think it's a great opportunity, especially coming out of the pandemic for our sector. It has been severely impacted. So this is some bright spots on the horizon for us.
Oh, yeah. So which kind of business models, do you foresee a competitive market in terms of licensing, and maybe what could you tell operators, international operators that were actually looking or were actually eyeing potential opening in Canada, but are not actually running a casino there? What could you tell those operators, and why do you think they could be interested in investing and entering this market if it offered a competitive and maybe with a high cap of license limit?
Yeah, Ontario is the place right now for people to look at, and because there's no limits on licensing, everybody's free to apply, and I think the market's they're working very, very hard to make sure it's competitive from a tax point of view. It's competitive from not being really anything, employing the best practices of regulatory framework as opposed to trying to do something unique or different or new. They're not trying to be an outlier, shall we say, on that. But I think you're going to see it's a very predictable regulated environment. It's been, the regulatory regimes are based on outcomes and they're risk-based. They're not prescriptive in Ontario for anything. That's the model they've always operated with, and they do a very good job at it. So there's really a neat opportunity in Ontario, I think, for initially, and it's also a really diverse market. And that's where, from soccer, football is extremely popular, large cultural diversity. People are watching the Euro Cup, they're watching Copa, they're watching all of these things, and there's huge fan bases for this product. And it's not just your traditional North American sports betting. There's lots of huge cricket fans and rugby and other sports. So we've got that beyond the big North American sports leagues. Hockey is obviously huge here, but we want to make sure that there's also in the marketplaces right across the country that everybody can embrace live in-game wagering and betting on esports, all of those things. We want to make sure that the regulators are putting provisions in to make sure those products can be offered too. We're not trying to leave anything behind at this point, and make sure that it's really a robust offering from coast to coast as best as possible, because some of the other markets are going to evaluate as they go along. They may start with their lottery corporation, and they may look at the evaluation and sort of say, no, we should offer more choice to our consumers, and we hope they consider that. I think that competition is good, especially in the sports betting market, because a lot of people have more than one account, and they look, depending on what sports they like to bet on. This book's better at this than that one, and they do a better job at football than this one does. And so everybody's got their preferences, and I think that's the most important part. And that's the premise Ontario's following, is that it's about, they're trying to drive it from a consumer perspective, and sort of say, giving everybody choice and opportunity is key. So we're excited. But it's going to be a bit of an evolution. It's going to take some time, I think, but getting something out now is important, and then seeing where it grows to over the next 12, 18, 24 months, I think will be interesting. But Ontario is the dominant discussion point in Canada right now because of what they're doing, and we expect that they'll that market will open for in late 2021, and it will be very competitive. I think there's lots of interest right now.
Well, something that I was hoping to ask you about is well, it's sports betting. We are covering a lot of developments there in the US. What does this new bill, what doors does it open for esports betting? What would be the approach to this market, and what are your outlooks? I'm not sure if this legislation specifically mentions events for esports.
That's where the provinces come in. So there's no more legislation required, which is the great part of this. We just needed this simple change to the criminal code to take out the prohibition on betting on a single event, because we've had legal parlay wagering for years. It just hasn't been, in some jurisdictions in the country, hasn't been a very robust offering. In other parts, it was quite good in others, but so it's been very uneven. But so it's now up to the provinces, and this is where we've talked to them about esports wagering, for example, and understanding, getting a better appreciation of understanding how the sport operates, how it's from referees to the integrity issues that the regulators care about is helping them learn that. And that's what we've been doing as an association, is trying to bring the sectors in to say, here's what they, and here's some best practices from other jurisdictions when it comes to looking at things like event wagering or esports, other live in-game, all of the other features, and saying what we're trying to help them get learning from other jurisdictions and what's worked and what hasn't. But we've been encouraging them to make sure that esports is part of the equation, and that the fact they don't leave any products out. It's because some of the US jurisdictions have left certain things aren't permitted at this time or haven't started, and we're saying no, let's get started and put everything in and make sure that all the products can be offered to bettors, and if it takes a bit of an incremental approach, but I think the regulators are learning quickly and getting up to speed. And so I don't see really any major pieces left out in terms of what I think the sports fans today and sports bettors have been looking for.
Yeah. Well, one final thing that I was recalling now that we talked about the cashless wagering standards that the CGA was working on. You mentioned that in our last conversation. So maybe if you can provide us some update of the current status of this or the development after we spoke last time.
Yeah, we're seeing it's becoming a very popular conversation from the casino environment, because our standards were done for cashless standards for casino operators, and giving that cashless option inside gaming floors it's really taking off. We're seeing a couple of jurisdictions in Western Canada look at it from much more thoroughly and investigating the products from the suppliers are there, from companies like Every and others who have got great for the casino environment, great cashless options to provide, and so we're excited the fact that people are looking at this now, because they're recognizing that it's consumer behavior that's driving this, right? It's the pandemic moved a lot of people away from cash. I haven't had any cash in my pocket for months, and I think that's just a reality that people are, and from listening to your customers and understanding what they want, that's why the operators are now looking at this and saying, can we give them that option? Because I don't think cash is ever going to disappear from a casino, and I tell people that all the time. It's just, it'll become an option along with many others inside the casino environment, and that's what, it's a customer service driven business, and the operators are listening to what their customers are saying, and they're asking those questions: is, can I tap with my phone on this payment here and here? And they don't have that option, but they're hearing it and they want to respond to it. So I think we're going to see a lot of movement on this in the next 12 months, probably. I think we're going to start to see some of those options appear in the casino environment, whether it's open payment systems or using player cards that are loadable with cash. all of those options, I think, will be available soon. So we're grateful. I know a number of organizations have looked at our standards and starting to apply them to their businesses.
Sure. Well, if you want to have a final thought about the VC casinos that are opening next month, July 1st, and then we'll let you go.
Yeah, no, it's been a tough time for the casino operators. You know, BC had never reopened their casinos, and in Ontario, a number of casinos never reopened. The Niagara Falls casinos stayed closed because the province of Ontario said you can only have 50 people. That doesn't work for a casino floor that's 100,000 plus square feet, and the cost structures that built into that to opening the doors. So we're grateful now that we're seeing the government's considering more robust occupancy levels. In British Columbia, I think about 65% of the gaming positions will be open when they open next week, which it's a great level to build from. Alberta, it's the same. They're very high. Saskatchewan, where they opened with about 150 person limit a couple of weeks ago, they're on their way to basically having no capacity restrictions by the end of July. So it's coming back, and we're grateful. The vaccines are rolling out in this country. The caseloads are dropping, and life is starting to look a little more normal. It's not quite there yet. We got some time yet, but we're getting there, and that's the encouraging part. That there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not a train this time. So we're good with that.
Thank you very much, Paul. And well, we look forward to speaking with you once this market is already operating in Canada, of course. I'll see you soon.
Terrific. Thanks for having me, and good things ahead in Canada. Talk soon.
Bye-bye.